Dear viewers, how are you? I hope that you are well. I am also well. Today, I want to make a short video on tag question. This is very important question. This is very important question for any examinee of SSC or any students of learning English. If you want to know English clearly, you must have to gather knowledge about tag question. What is tag question and how can it make and how can it answer of an examination? I shall discuss about tag question elaborate. Tag question always will be at the end of a sentence. Now I am writing an example for tag question. He is a boy. How can it be possible to make a tag question? You will use a comma and then you will make a tag question. If you see that there is an auxiliary verb used in a sentence, you must use this auxiliary verb at the end of a sentence, and if you see the sentence is affirmative, you will write negative, and if you see this sentence is negative, you will write affirmative, and at the last of the sentence you will write the pronoun form of the subject. You must have to write pronoun form of the subject, and after that you will add a question mark or interrogative sign at the last of the sentence. There are some rules of tag question. First, you must write a question mark at the end of the sentence. You must use the pronoun form. You must write, if you see the auxiliary verb is used in a sentence, that auxiliary verb will also use before the subject, and if the sentence is affirmative, you will write negative, and if you see the sentence is negative, you will write affirmative at the end of the sentence. The second rule, if you see that there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence, he stood in a line. Another example for a tag question, he stood in a line. If you see that there is no auxiliary verb, in this sentence. For this reason, if you see there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence, you must write the auxiliary verb do or does or did. When you see there is no auxiliary verb in the sentence, you may write do or does or did according to the tense. If it is present indefinite tense, you may write do or does, and if you see it is past indefinite tense, you may write did. This sentence is affirmative, I shall write, and it is past tense. For this reason, I have written did, and it is an affirmative sentence. For this reason, it will be negative, didn't. And at last I am writing pronoun form, and at last I am adding a question mark at the end of the sentence. There is another rule of tag question. If it is an imperative sentence, how can it be possible to write tag question? Open the door. This is an imperative sentence. This is an example of imperative sentence. When I see that open the door, I can write won't you. If we see that the sentence has started with let, and after let it is used as or as, we may write shall we or shan't we. if we see that the subject is everybody, anybody, anyone, nobody, no one, thus all etc are subject. Everybody likes flower. If we see the subjects are everybody, anybody, anyone, everyone, none, nobody, we must use as a pronoun they, and according to the sentence we shall write the auxiliary verb don't they. This is an affirmative sentence, and at last we write the question mark of the sentence. তাহলে there are many rules already I have mentioned for writing a question. At first, when we see this is an affirmative sentence and this the auxiliary verb is used in this sentence, then we must write same auxiliary verb. And if it is a affirmative sentence, we shall write a negative form, and if it is a negative sentence, we shall write affirmative form. And at the end of the sentence, we write the word pronoun form of the subject, and at last we add question mark at the end of the sentence. If there is no mentioned the auxiliary verb of this, in this sentence, we must write then do, does, or did according to the tense. And if it is a imperative sentence, we must write down won't you. When we see that there are 23 auxiliary verbs in English. They are do, does, did, am, is, are, was, were, have, has, shall, should, will, would, can, could, may, might, must, need, dare, ought. There is no auxiliary verb in this sentence. For this reason, this is a past tense, and for this reason I have used the auxiliary verb did, and it is an affirmative sentence. For this reason I have written a negative form. When we use apostrophe comma after the auxiliary verb, there are some exceptional rules, such as is not, isn't, but shall not, shan't, am not, will not, won't, am not, ain't or aren't. There are some exceptional to add not with shortly at the end of the auxiliary verb, but other is general, like as is not, isn't, or we must not write o, and for o we have used a comma named apostrophe comma. I think that all of you are very glad to get the lecture, and you will be very benefited if you follow this rule, and I hope that you must answer of any question, of tag question in an examination. Thank you very much for cooperation with me.